We'll, of course, be getting updated figures on unemployment next week, Tuesday. However, for now, the picture does look bleak indeed. In the fourth quarter of 2023, the biggest job losses were among the youth. That is, people between the ages of 15 and 34. In that period, 87,000 unemployed youth were added to the numbers of job seekers, meaning that 44.3% of them are unemployed. Let's explore this issue further with Kristal Duncan-Williams, who is the project lead at the organization Youth Capital. Good afternoon, Kristal. Thanks very much for your time. Scary numbers indeed.
Thanks so much for your yes. If you lined up all of the young people who are not in employment, educational training, that line would extend from Cape Town all the way to nearly Lagos in Nigeria. Sometimes these numbers can wash over us, but if you think about that picture, it's horrifying actually.
But then promises have been, made. You had the president only this past weekend saying he's going to create 1 million jobs a year over the next 5 years, and you have every political party telling us that they are going to do the same. In fact, more than what is promising.
Yes, and in the segment just now, those, again, big numbers rattled off as promises made in the manifestos across all the political parties. And we can speak about the president only because they're the only ones who have governed and so have a track record to speak to. And it's a little bit ludicrous to me that in the speech where the president promises 1 million jobs over the next 5 years, he himself admitted that in the last 30 years, the government is only being able to create 8.7 million jobs. So if you could only create 8.7 million jobs in 30 years, how are you going to create 5 million jobs in 5 years? And when you look at the manifesto of the ANC, they've highlighted some key policies. A priority one is public employment programs, which when done well, can be part of a job creation stimulus to the economy. But that can't be all. And also how it's done is really key. And so I think that's what we at Youth Capital have really been missing from the manifestos. And I guess, unfortunately, we kind of accept that this will happen around elections, is that there will be big promises and grand numbers thrown out. But the nitty-gritty of what that looks like, I don't think any single political party has really tackled these issues. We heard from unemployed people just now. You hear about things, the costs of looking for work, the reality of not having work experience, but requiring work experience to get work. This idea that young people go through revolving doors of traineeship and trainings and learnerships and internships and just go from one thing to the next without it creating any sort of stable career path for them. These are the realities of the young unemployed South Africans that we refer to in these big numbers. And they are realities that I feel many political parties have not grappled with in depth in their manifestos.
In fact, less than an hour ago, we played a clip by Duma Gubule pointing out that, in fact, Treasury has reduced the number of, the amount of money that was originally made available for these job opportunities that the president was boasting about.
Yes, many of the wording from the ANC and the president is very specific. You'll hear work opportunities. And that's because no government, doesn't matter who's in power, a government cannot create permanent work for millions of people. Like, that's just not the role of government, and it's also just not possible. And so we do speak about work opportunities, and what that translates into is public employment programs, and that's something government can invest into. But as Duma Kabula would have said, the funding towards expanded public works programs and community works programs has been cut in the latest budget. Less than was threatened, but it's still being cut. The presidential employment stimulus, which has got the most transparent record keeping of how the money is being used and where those opportunities are and how many have gone to young people. The dashboard that's publicly available is a little bit more transparent than previous public works programs. But that program also was initially, cut substantially, and since it's clawed back a little bit of that funding. So on the one hand, the president's saying they're going to create additional work opportunities, but on the other hand, when you look at the budget, it says something different. And we really need to keep our eyes on the budget going forward, because that's, I think, going to be key to see whoever the ruling parties are, whether that's coalition government or not, where they invest their money really tells us where they think the solutions are. Unfortunately, most of the time that investing is not in the right place.
Now, the National Development Plan, which is the country's economic development blueprint, the NDP 2030 vision has targets for reducing unemployment. It says, from 25.4% in 2010, 20% by 2015, 14% by 2020, 6% by 2030. It looks unlikely that these targets...
No, I know. I can hear you're even laughing, because what else are we going to do again? Ludicrous, right? All we've seen is those numbers. You have to, I think, also what we fail to do as government and as a country, and even civil society ourselves are guilty of this. We focus so much on the supply side of the equation, getting young people ready for work, that we've neglected the importance of the demand. Unless we have macroeconomic frameworks that support economic growth at scale, and Duma Kubula, I know, would have said we need GDP growth of at least 6% a year, and we are far from that. We cannot have an economy. You need the private sector to be creating jobs. We need people to be getting these jobs to put money back into the economy again. It's this circular idea of how money rotates through the economy, and we just cannot get the one without the other. And I think what we fail to do is focus enough on the demand side. And instead, we focus all of our investments into trainings and learnerships that take young people through programs into a place where there just aren't any jobs.
Kristal Duncan-Williams, thank you for your time and insights this afternoon. It's an issue, of course, we're exploring throughout the program. We still have a couple more interviews that will be exploring this issue further.